Pete's here from Popternative, speaking to a defenseman on the Montreal Canadiens in the National Hockey League, Jordan Harris. Jordan, welcome back to the show, man. It's good to see you as always.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
I feel like it's a tradition every time you come on the show. I have to ask you, when's the last time you played spike ball?
Spike ball. It's been a minute. We've been playing a lot of pickleball instead. Exactly. So that's our new thing.
Now. Pickleball is the big craze.
Oh my god, it's wild. Like, you go into any store now and like you go over to the pickleball section, everything's sold out. Like, all my buddies are playing.
Yeah, it's crazy. You're a younger guy in the Montreal Canadiens organization. You had an opportunity last year to play, most of the year with the team and everything, and kind of be a Montreal Canadian for a good amount of time. Obviously, there's always kind of more work to be done and everything. You want to keep your spot. But how big was that year last year for you specifically for your development being part of the Montreal Canadiens?
Yeah, it's huge. And, I'm very grateful and happy that, like, a lot of the younger guys got a chance to play and really learn. Like, I always tell people who ask, like, the amount of stuff I learned over the course of the season just to set, like, a foundation for moving forward, whether it's the travel, whether it's, how big boy hockey is supposed to be played, like little tips, and our coaching staff does a great job in being hands-on with that stuff. So, it was a really good building block.
Is it one of those things, too, where the Bell Center and just the kind of legacy of the Montreal Canadiens, often on the ice, it's just always magical just being around the team specifically, right? There's just history all over the place, right?
Exactly. And it's been great last year, and I know it wasn't always like this, but the alums, too, are always around the rink. And so you're meeting legends, and you look up in the rafters, and all their jerseys are hanging up, and it's really, really special. It's like you feel definitely fortunate to be a part of it because you know how long, the Canadiens have been around and all the success that they've had. And you just try to, carry that on best you can.
And that's it for the hockey talk right now, because this isn't a hockey interview. What have you been watching lately specifically? I feel like I ask you this every time we see, but like, was there a show that a bunch of you guys were kind of watching a little bit at the end of the year? Or like, what's the talk in the room about like the shows and the movies specifically?
That's a great question. I've been trying to watch Ted Lasso because everyone's saying you need to watch Ted Lasso.
You have to. It's great.
So that's, I think, the next step. Kind of bouncing around. Like, I didn't watch. I actually watched Friends for the first time. From the course of last summer into like halfway through the season, and like I loved it. I thought it was unreal. So that was me personally.
But everyone freaks out too about like when you watch a show late, and I don't blame anyone because there's so much stuff out there. Like, stuff's gonna get missed.
Always. And I watched Suits for a bit.
Yeah.
But I think Ted Lasso's next on the docket.
Yeah, you should definitely. That's one of those shows too where it has a lot of, like, I feel like it's interesting. Another one I think I've told you about, I was watching our last interview. There's a show called Swagger on Apple TV Plus, which is about youth basketball in the US. And it's loosely based on Kevin Durant's life growing up playing youth basketball. It's a good one. It's good stuff.
That's cool.
It's kind of has the Friday Night Lights vibe a little bit too, which was awesome. But I feel like a lot of these shows about sports are like about sports, but at the same time, they're not about sports. Like, you watch them play a game and then all this other things happen where like all these kind of crazy things happen in their lives, their relationships and with their families. It's like almost like you're watching two shows, I feel like, every time with sports shows. Like, sports shows aren't about sports, like the TV show, like the dramas. But when you watch all those big documentaries, right? Like the quarterback documentary just came out on Netflix. I was just going to
say that, yeah.
So good. And that's about sports.
I love stuff like that. Like that Breakpoint, the tennis one.
Oh, so good.
And the golf one. Like, I eat that stuff up. Because it's cool. Like you see the athletes for what they do on the field or court or whatever. But to see, like, how they are,
Would you ever do anything like that? Specifically, would you ever, like, that'd be kind of cool, eh?
It'd be so cool. And I think it just shows that, like, athletes, like, sometimes they're put on this crazy pedestal, but they're just normal dudes, and it's cool to see, like Patrick Mahomes. It just seems like a quirky, like, normal guy. That's cool.
I mean, remember during the pandemic, like The Last Dance, literally, like, I feel like the whole world watched that show. It was crazy.
Sure. great timing by them, eh?
Oh,
During the pandemic, like,
and then like
everyone,
remember Tiger King during the pandemic?
yeah.
Oh man, that's not sports, but it just reminded me of all those big shows. We actually
Seriously.
interviewed like years later, like Carol Baskin came on Pop Turnative as a guest.
No way.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Yeah, it was pretty wild.
That is cool.
Yeah, no, it was. Who does the music in the room? Is it a bunch of people, or is it specifically one or two guys?
So it was mostly Joel Edmondson,
Okay.
but now he's in Washington. So, Nick sometimes Suzuki will hop on.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever give requests, or you just go with the crowd of like whatever?
Whatever. I mean, these guys have been around a lot longer than me. I just,
Are you going to any kind of music? Did you go to any music festivals this summer, or any of that specifically?
No. So I'm going to Calgary next week. Okay. My girlfriend's from Calgary, so we missed Stampede, which is too bad. I know they'll have some good concerts in Montreal, during September and towards the beginning of the year. So we'll catch a couple of those. I know Drake was just there.
Yeah. Did you go last year to a few that came to Montreal?
I went to Luke Combs, which is really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. No, that's country music, man. I'm getting into it a little bit more too, to be honest with you. I've never been like, oh, I don't like country music. I just never, kind of like what you did about Friends. Like I just never gave it a chance. But now I'm listening to it a little bit, and like it's not bad. There's some good stuff out there.
Exactly, and I think live it's even more impressive.
Oh, apparently they're not even. It's funny because apparently, they bring up, they're like rock concerts live too. It's like they're jamming and there's apparently it's like unreal live. That's very true.
Yeah. Like we saw Zach Brown Band last summer and they were lights out. Like, I know.
So cool.
Like the dude was on the banjo. Like they all had like their own little parts. They were playing rock songs. Like it was really impressive.
Mm-hmm. One thing I kind of wanted to ask you, it's interesting because as a professional athlete, hockey player playing on the Montreal Canadiens and National Hockey League, Jordan Harris has a job to do on the ice, but at the same time, Jordan Harris also has jobs to do off the ice, whether it's community events, whether it's media and everything. And one thing that I've noticed for the 3-4 years that I've known you and done interviews with you is Jordan Harris is a kind person. How important is that specifically at a time where we really need that? We need kindness right now. How important is that in terms of a lot of the off-ice stuff that you have to do as a professional athlete playing for the Montreal Canadiens specifically? I'm curious about that.
Of course, yeah. And I wouldn't say you have to do it. It's more so I think it's great to do. And I think it's fantastic that, the Habs Foundation have done a great job. Like we met with them last week. Me and my girlfriend just went over like what things we kind of had in mind for the upcoming year, like some of the organizations we want to work with, some of the community work that we want to dial in. And I think that's so cool and important because it's more than hockey. Like the Canadiens, yes, the finished product is on the ice, but it reaches out to communities all throughout Quebec, all throughout Canada, the world. Like you go wherever and there'll be Habs merchandise, in the store. And so I think that's really cool to have that platform as an athlete. Mm-hmm. And I think personally, it's more than just hockey. You're you have young kids looking up to you now, and I think it's really, really important to use that platform for good and speak out on certain topics and be a role model for hopefully some future Habs players.
And nominated for the King Clancy by your team. How special was that specifically this year?
Definitely really special, yeah, and it was a little surprising because more so just stuff I've been doing, my whole life and just trying to get hop in wherever I can help out and like I said, work with different organizations. So to be nominated for that, and then you look at the other names, on
crazy
the list of nominations, it's wild to see your name up there. So that was really special.
I sometimes ask this question in terms of what advice would you have for, an upcoming player, in regards to, his on-ice development. I feel like that's a difficult question to always ask advice-wise because every player is different and, you have to work on different kind of things depending on the player, right? Some guys have to work on their skating and everything. What recommendations would you have for, junior players or players about to go to college in terms of the off-ice component of being a professional athlete specifically?
That's a great question. I think if you can instill good habits and turn it into a lifestyle and really make that choice every single day to commit to, feeling good and getting your sleep and just, like you said, finding what works for you. Like, make sure you get your sleep, make sure you're eating well, and not just pick and choose, like when you want to do it, but really make it consistent and part of who you are and your lifestyle, because that goes a long way. Because then you just stack good day on good day on good day. And if you say you're working your butt off on the ice and you're not taking care of yourself off the ice, it's all, it's all a wash at the end of the day. Like, none of that stuff is really going to matter if you're not, taking care of yourself. So as long as you can be consistent, those healthy habits, they really do, stack up over the years.
100%. That's so well said, man. Absolutely. And I think it's, and I truly mean that, man. You are a really kind person. And I think, that goes a long way, dude. Honestly, obviously there's the job and the product on the ice, but I generally think that goes a long way. So I really mean that when I said that. Thank you so much for coming back on the show, man. It's always good to catch up with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And
yeah, Instagram is the best way to keep up to date, right? It's just your name.
Yeah. I think
is it what the number, maybe? Right?
Yeah, I think it's Jordan Harris 04. I need to double check. Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been Pop Turner, youtube.com/Pop Turner for previous episodes. Until next time, this is Jordan Harris from the Montreal Canadiens and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.